مسلمون بالدين فخر وابتهاج، مثالا حاملا دين الرشاد. أحمد شيخنا نورا لنا، فقيها طائعا رب العباد. أحمد شيخنا نورا لنا، فقيها طائعا رب العباد. أسست فينا خير أخلاق الرسول، ورست فينا حبه فوق الفؤاد. يا صاحب القرآن والنهج القويم، يسوع لك الإسلام فخرا وعلا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You ask about the hadith of الخثعمية, which is the hadith of the woman from the tribe of Kheth'am, who asked the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam during Hajj if she can perform Hajj on behalf of her father who is old and weak. And the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said yes. But in the hadith, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam was riding with Al-Fadl, who's the cousin of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the brother of Abdullah ibn Abbas. He started looking at that woman who was asking, and she started looking at him until the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned Al-Fadl's face away from her. Now, as you stated, some use this as proof that niqab is not wajib, and there's many responses to that. Responses to how they use the proof, not the proof itself, because the hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. First of all, the hadith doesn't explicitly state that the woman's face was uncovered. She was looking at him, he was looking at her. But it doesn't explicitly say her face was uncovered. They say that Al-Fadl was looking at her face, and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw them, and he didn't tell her to cover her face. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam would never delay the inkar of a munkar that happens in front of him. The answer to that is, what's your proof her face was uncovered? Not a single narration of the various narrations of this hadith explicitly state her face was uncovered. It's all assumptions. Some of the narrations describe her as beautiful. In Sunan al-Nasa'i, وَكَانَتْ امْرَأَةً حَسْنَاء. In another narration, وَضِيئَةً. In another narration, وَعَجَبَهُ حُسْنُهَا. He was attracted to her beauty. If her face was uncovered, and that's where beautiful came from, her description as beautiful came from, then it's possible it may have happened accidentally. Why? Because this happened during Hajj. And in Hajj, the ihram of a woman is not to wear her niqab and quffazain, her gloves. Niqab is the normal covering of the face that they wore. And that itself, not wearing the niqab during ihram, is in itself proof that niqab is wajib. But that's a side issue. So the ihram of a woman is that she doesn't wear the niqab and the gloves. But as Aisha stated, radiyallahu anha, when men came nearby, سَدَلَتْ إِحْدَانَا جِلْبَابَهَا مِنْ رَأْسِهَا عَلَى وَجْهِهَا. They would cover their faces with their jilbab. So this woman, radiyallahu anha, she may have covered her face in that which she doesn't normally cover it with, and it may have came off. And that's where the description of beautiful came from. Or the description may have been something known about her. For example, someone tells you, go marry from this family, they're at the age of marriage, and he has beautiful daughters. How would he know they're beautiful? If they're appropriately covered, a modest woman, how would he know that? When there were young little girls playing in the neighborhood and in the park, he saw them, described them as beautiful. They grew up, and now they're at the age of marriage, so he recommends someone to go to that family because they have beautiful daughters. فَجَعَلَ الْفَضْلُ يَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهَا وَتَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِ. He was looking at her and she was looking at him. So they say he was looking at her, he was looking at her face. He was looking at her. The hadith says he was looking at her, she was looking at him. They say he was looking, they say their interpretation is he was looking at her face. I'm going to say He was looking at her eyes, at her chest, at her overall figure. What I'm saying is assumptions. And what they're saying is assumptions as well. My assumptions are not any better than their assumptions, nor is their assumptions any better than mine. Why? Because the various narrations do not specifically, explicitly say that the face was uncovered. وَأَعْجَبَهُ حُسْنُهَا. He was attracted to her beauty. That doesn't necessarily mean he was attracted to the beauty of her face. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was part of her eyes or something else, her overall figure. I know a student once told me that women who are not appropriately covered are not a fitna for him, and he's not attracted to them. But women in complete full niqab, he's attracted to them and they're a fitna for him. And I said, why? He said, because that's the type of woman that I want to bring to my house to marry in the future, inshallah. And keep in mind, this happened during Hajj. There was a lot of Sahaba in Hajj. And we don't know of any other narration that any other Sahabi saw her face. And some who use this as proof also said this actually happened after the rituals of Hajj were over. Meaning you can't use as an excuse that her face was uncovered due to Hajj. They said because she went to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam after the Messenger had completed throwing the stones. So it was after Hajj, they say. And the answer to that is that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in addition to what I previously said, the answer to this specific detail is it may be possible that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam completed his rituals, but how do you know she completed hers? It's possible she didn't complete hers. Also, there's another narration that Ibn Hajar mentioned about this hadith where she came along riding with her father. And the father was eagerly wanting to marry her off to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she was sitting behind her father. And what you learn from that narration is, first of all, the way they rode may have caused her face to accidentally uncover. Possible. Second of all, the father was eager to have her married to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so the face was uncovered because it was some type of marriage proposal. Or Ibn Hajar mentioned that the Messenger has specialties, like the specialty of marrying over 4 wives, and he married without mahar, and he married without a wali. And he also added the specialty that he may see women in a less restricted way that is not permissible for others to see her. So with those scenarios, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw her, and it happened that Al-Fadl was there and he saw that as well. And if it's permissible, as they allege, to show the face, why would the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam physically do an inkar of a munkar? Physically, by pushing the chin of his cousin away from looking at that which is permissible. Why would he push his face away from looking at that which is permissible? And another response, and to be fair, it's a weak response, is that in one of the narration, Abdullah ibn Abbas asked the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam why he pushed Al-Fadl's face away. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إني رأيت غلاما شابا وجارية شابة فخشيت عليهما الشيطان. I saw a young man and a young woman, and I feared the shaitan over him. She was described as a jariya shabba. Jariya in Arabic comes to mean 2 things: a young girl or a slave girl. And those who respond to how this is used to allege that niqab is not wajib, they say she's a jariya, The hadith says jariya shabba. So she's a jariya. Jariya is a slave girl. The Islamic ruling on their dress code is much more relaxed than a free woman's dress code is. She was described as jariya shabba. Okay, but the question is, how do you know jariya here comes to mean that she was a slave girl, not a young girl? And they said, because the term is wajariya shabba. Shabba means young. If you say jariya, as in being young, you're basically saying young, meaning it would be something like redundant to mention it twice. So jariya would mean a young, a slave girl, and shabba would be young. So the translation would be a young slave girl. But as I said, this is a weak response because, first of all, the hadith, some spoke about it, some spoke about its weakness. In the other part of the hadith, رَأَيْتُ غُلَامًا شَابًا. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam referred about الخثعمية saying جارية شابة. And I explained that. And he referred to his cousin as غُلَامًا شَابًا. غُلَامًا شَابًا is the masculine terms of جارية شابة. So غُلَامًا could mean a young boy, or it could mean a slave boy. And if you say jariya is a slave girl, and you say that's why her face was uncovered, because the rules for covering of slave girls is less restrictive than that of a free girl. So if you say jariya would be a slave girl rather than a young girl, then in the same context, you're going to have to say غُلَامًا شَابًا means that he's a slave boy. And who's that referring to? It's referring to Al-Fadl. And Al-Fadl is the brother of Abdullah ibn Abbas. He's the cousin of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was definitely not a slave. So that's why this response is weak. The bottom line is what I started with, and that is there is no explicit proof that Al-Khaf'amiyya had her face uncovered. And if two people get in a dispute about this matter, they're using it to say that niqab is not wajib, and like us who respond to that, this is among the mutashabihat. There's a lot of assumptions in it. It's not clear. It's not clear for those who use it as proof to indicate niqab is not wajib. So a student of knowledge and someone who's sincerely seeking the haqq on this matter of niqab, he will not look into the proofs that are full of assumptions in how they're used, but he'll go to the clear, decisive proofs, and there's plenty of them, on showing how niqab is a farida from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no doubt about it. You don't leave what's explicit and clear and has no assumptions for that which is full of assumptions. Wallahu alam.